And a good morning to you. Happy trade deadline day. This is Card Central 365, powered by Gray Bar here on STL Sports Central. All content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Joe Roderick, Brenden Schaeffer up early with you here on this Thursday morning. Brendan's got his coffee, and we are ready to get you prepared for what the next 9 hours looks like in baseball, I would say.
Yeah, it sounds about right. The Cardinals active last night, of course, and man, I was worried we were going to miss something. We didn't have a Steven Matz live stream last night, but we had this planned for the morning, and no extra Maton magic happening before we woke up today. But that could very well be in play today. There are now position players being talked about, depending on whose reports you're reading, and so it could very well be another very active day, Joe, for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Absolutely. And we are coming to you also on the STL Sports Central Twitter account this morning. So if you are watching that, jump on over to the YouTube stream and make sure to like and subscribe, because when we go live throughout the day, whether it's Randy Carricker coming up at 10 o'clock, Bernie Miklas with his show later on this afternoon, any trade that happens during the day, or the show that we'll be doing leading right up to the deadline later on. You want to know when we are going live. You want to get those notifications. So if you have yet to do so, make sure to like and subscribe to the STL Sports Central YouTube page so you know when news happens. You mentioned the Steven Matz trade. Let's start with that because we already went live. We already talked about Ryan Helsley. If you want to know all the latest on Ryan Helsley, you go back to the YouTube show that we did. Yeah, you go back to YouTube and you look at what we did yesterday when we did our instant reaction show minutes after the trade happened. But Steven Matz traded around midnight last night. This came after, I loved this. I loved this news that we saw yesterday, that after the game that it was announced that Phil Maton and Steven Matz would not fly to San Diego with the Cardinals in just preparation of a trade happening. And then, of course, Steven Matz gets traded. I tweeted out this morning when I saw that, Brendan, that you noticed Jojo Romero was not listed as part of that. Oddly enough, Jojo Romero rumored to be traded to the Padres. So I think they just kind of said, hey, Jojo,
come on over.
Phil and Steven, they're going to stay. Why don't you bring an extra suitcase? Why don't you pack a few extra clothes in case you have to stay in San Diego a little longer? So
that was some good stuff reported by Derek Gould there. And of course, Matz gets dealt, and then Maton, obviously, you tell everybody goodbye. We don't expect you to need to be in San Diego at any point this weekend. Cardinals have the day off today, which is kind of nice for all the trade deadline reasonings. JoJo's an interesting one because I would say as of about a week ago, I wasn't really expecting the Cardinals to move him because I think they're hesitant to do more than just the guys that are expiring contracts. However, now that they've gotten a couple of those expiring contracts out of the way, Maton, I would be surprised if he doesn't happen today in some capacity. You kind of say, okay, well, what's next? What else could we do now that we're kind of gathering a little bit of this momentum? What would make sense? JoJo is pitching so well right now, and he's a lefty, and he's got a year of team control. Now, the year of team control for 2026 is a reason not to trade him if you're the St. Louis Cardinals, but also we can be real. Like, the return for Ryan Helsley wasn't a pitcher that you're going to throw into your rotation for next year. And I don't really think it was a bullpen guy you're going to throw into your bullpen next year. And the position player you got is 20. And all these guys have only ever played at high A. So if we're being real, that return, could that be a little bit of an inkling about where the Cardinals could be next year? You don't want to make too much of that because, hey, maybe that's just what was available for Ryan Helsley, and you had to take what you could get, especially after the market began to move with the Duran trade in Philly. So I'm not trying to overreach with this, but is it possible that the Cardinals by 2026 aren't quite ready, at least in ownership's minds, to really spend to a point where they're going to be able to contend? Right now, they're fourth in the division, and you see everybody around them getting better. So, if that's the possibility that we're looking at here, you maybe start to rethink a little bit. Okay, if JoJo's value is as high as it's ever going to be, we got to at least listen. Arenado, we're seeing John Denton report about Arenado kind of considering what his situation could be. Look, You got Nolan Gorman coming off the IL soon. I think now would actually be a really sensible time to move Nolan. I like Arenado. I think he's a potential future Hall of Famer, even as he kind of declines. But I don't think you're going to get more from him than what you're getting right now offensively. And if you're looking to 2026, that's not necessarily a puzzle piece that fits into what the plan could be. So as we move a little bit more from pitchers to position players, JoJo is kind of that linchpin that opens up, okay, if we're talking about guys with control, maybe it goes a little bit beyond just what we've done so far.
You mentioned that. We'll get into some of that in a little bit. But the Steven Matz trade, sure. Just quickly with that, we saw this last night. There's the Jeff Passan tweet on it. The St. Louis Cardinals are receiving first baseman Blaze Jordan from the Boston Red Sox in the deal for Steven Matz. Sources telling ESPN. Blaze Jordan. So you now have Mason Blaze Wynn at shortstop, and you have Blaze Jordan now in the minor leagues for the Cardinals.
And Jordan Walker from that same draft class in right field. I mean, you've got all the connections there. The Cardinals liked this guy back when the 2020 draft was going on, and he ends up going in the third round to the Red Sox. Of course, their lead executive at that point in time when that draft happened was Chaim Bloom. And so I think that's actually, there's a couple of things about this trade. One, that tells you something, right? Like that trade probably doesn't happen if Chaim Bloom's not, if he's like locked in the hallway, I don't think this trade's happening. So Chaim Bloom is at least being consulted, as we have said all along should be the case. Whether Mo is still kind of the final finger on the button, Chaim Bloom is certainly involved in the things that are going on here. And that should give the Cardinals fans some promise of, okay, at least feel like that's moving in the right direction. That's number one. Number two is like, is this a return that you feel good about? Because with Helsley, you're talking about 3 high A prospects. Not that those guys can't turn into something great, but they're not quite as close to contributing. And so maybe that was a bit of a disappointment for fans that were hoping to get a little bit more immediacy in what they were seeing from that. Ultimately, I think this Matz deal is, you get a guy that's playing at AAA and playing pretty well there. Still only 22 years old, maybe limited defensively, but he is a right-handed bat. And so like the archetype of player, a little bit more interesting, and because I think Cardinals fans had heard of this guy, right? Like, doesn't mean it's a better return than what they got for Helsley, but Cardinals fans certainly know, who this guy is. Remember hearing about him being drafted and on the way up. I saw from Kylie McDaniel, who does a great job covering prospects. He had a tweet that said just Blaze ? So maybe the implication there being that it wasn't a huge return. But we're talking about Steven Matz here. I think 12 months ago at this time, if you were to say you got Blaze Jordan for Steven Matz, Blaze Jordan was still kind of working his way through and had not really had the great year that he's having this season from AA to now AAA. But I think that's more than fine to say that you got value for Steven Matz where you maybe didn't expect that based on the way the first 3 years of the contract had gone. I would say is a win in itself.
Yeah, this going back to March 20th of 2018, there was a Bleacher Report article written about Blaze Jordan. So again, you said he was drafted in 2020. This is an article from Bleacher Report back in 2018 comparing Blaze Jordan to Bryce Harper with stories saying that he hit a 500-foot home run at age 13.
Yeah, I saw that. That's not a fair, just to say, that's not like a very fair set of expectations to live up to. But these are facts that you are bringing to the table here on the show. That did happen.
That's a story that was written. I don't think we're not saying the 500.
Not saying the home run happened. I'm saying they wrote about that it happened.
Yes.
A long time ago before the kid was ever drafted.
Yeah, so there you go. That's right. And this is yesterday when we were doing the instant reaction show to Helsley, there were people that were back and forth. Oh, I hate this trade. I hate this trade. Mo got they took Mo to the shed. This and that, or the great trade. So we joked about it last night to where if Mo's the one making the deals, it's a terrible trade. If Bloom's the one making the deals, it's a great trade. So that seems to be the sense that the Cardinal fans, the commenters are giving us right now with that. And so I guess reading kind of the tea leaves of this, it's like, okay, maybe this was a Chaim Bloom trade. So it's great. It's awesome. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer with this. The 40 man is going to be pretty wide open, I think, after
I'll find you some
today.
Yeah.
There's going to be a few openings. Yeah.
First of all, yeah, you've got the major league guys that you're trading, but you've also got it's kind of a glut where if you've got guys that are at the end of your bench that aren't really long-term, like Garrett Hampson, and you've got guys in AAA that are in AAA when they have clearly had a need on the bench for, additional talent, but they haven't called you up, that might be a sign. Like, there's going to be some turnover in the offseason. I have said for, it feels like 5+ years, don't worry about the 40-man. I'll handle the 40-man. Like, it's all going to work itself out. And I think in this case in particular, that's true when you're trading away pieces and like the relievers that you're going to be calling up to replace Matz and Helsley and probably Maton are guys that are already on the 40-man for the most part. One name I will throw out there is Adonier Mosqueda, who is not on the 40-man roster, is a lefty that's been pitching in Memphis. I would not be all too surprised to see him get called up here soon because he's a left-hander. And you did trade Steven Matz. And remember, John King is on the injured list. And I mean, they probably should be trading JoJo today. I don't know that they will. I really like JoJo. It's strictly a value proposition. But if that happens, you may want a lefty in your bullpen. And so just mentioning the name Mosqueda as a guy who could fit that billing.
And somebody had mentioned here the Cardinals right now just collecting high school home run derby hitters with Luken Baker, Nolan Gorman, now Jordan Blaze. With that, I will tell you, if all these guys are up here at the big league level, hitting home runs, maybe jump on DraftKings Pick 6 and pick more when it comes to the more or less stats on two or more of your favorite players. If they have these home run hitters, hit that play on the DraftKings Pick 6 app. And all content here on STL Sports Central is brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Don't settle for the small payout. Switch to Pick 6. And right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5 if you download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use promo code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers. You will get $25 in bonus picks with the first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Let's see. Yeah.
Be good? Here, I
saw you threw the comment up there, so I was taking time to read it.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Okay, one word at a time. You mama talking about, well, actually, that's not even the one I meant to throw up there. There we go. That's why it was weird, because that wasn't even the one I meant to throw up there. No offense to you mama. We've featured him a couple of times. They're looking at right-handed power, right-handed pitching, big weakness in the system. I wanted to say about Blaze Jordan, and it was mentioned, he's not been on the 40-man, and so he could have been in the Rule 5 draft, and so he's not that great of a pickup or whatever. I think another attribute that makes him interesting is the fact that he's right-handed, but also that he has pounded lefties at least throughout his minor league career. Again, we have to kind of table expectations because he has not been to the big leagues yet, but he was over 1,100 OPS against lefties last year, over 900 OPS against lefties this year. We know the Cardinals have struggled to hit lefties, and with a guy like Arenado potentially out the door, that used to be something he was good at. And so you're starting to find a way to stockpile that element of your, not your roster right now, but your organization, which makes sense.
And then let's get into the kind of position players. We've talked a lot about the pitchers. We know that Helsley is gone. We know Matz is gone. We know Phil Maton's hanging out in St. Louis somewhere while the rest of the team is in San Diego. Reports right now have Phil Maton linked to the Blue Jays at the moment, with JoJo Romero linked to the Padres. So we will be watching those closely. And somebody kind of throws out there, and then I'm scrolling back through the comments looking for the one I want to throw up there before I really let them down. Nope, and I missed it here. Yeah. So this one, trade everyone. Oh, everyone included Newt, Burley, and Donnie. So Snips. You say that, and then here we go. Bob Nightingale, about a hour ago, tweets out the St. Louis Cardinals, who are wide open for business, have several teams including the Astros and the Phillies, expressing interest in the likes of Lars Nootbaar, Alec Burleson, and Brendan Donovan.
Doesn't that sound like probably exactly what John Mozeliak responded to Bob Nightingale's text because that wide open for business line feels like very much a line we've heard before. But nevertheless, okay, so teams are interested in these guys. The Astros, we know the Cardinals and Astros got deep on a trade talk in the spring with Arenado. Arenado's probably not an answer for Houston. They just picked up a third baseman from Baltimore yesterday. But Cardinals at least maybe having some familiarity with their system. The thing is, though, these players are more valuable than Arenado would have been because they don't have the money attached. Brendan Donovan's obviously a current all-star with 2 more years of team control. Nootbaar, not an all-star, but has 2 more years of team control and is the StatCast darling. Burleson's got even more team control attached than that. I don't remember which year he is eligible for free agency. I will look that up very quickly here. Not till after 2028. So Burley's got a long way to go. There should be a ton of value there. I would hesitate to move Burley because I don't think you're getting more value because he's got 3 years of team control than you necessarily would be getting when he has 2.5. If you wanted to do it next July, like at a certain point, it's diminishing returns. Like, okay, you have basically infinite. The world's not going to exist in 3 years anyway. Like, why are you? Let's be careful on the Burleson one, in my opinion, unless you're getting ready-made talent that's helping you right now and fits your roster a little bit better. I get the impetus because if Ivan Herrera is going to play corner outfield and Jordan Walker is still here, you don't really have Wilson Contreras will, be buried in a Cardinal uniform. He's not going anywhere. You kind of have some spots that are tied up that you wonder defensively where Burley and everybody else fits together. Burley's bat fits, though, and so you want to be careful about moving him. Your thoughts, I hesitate to ask it, to throw it to you when we're talking about a Lars Nootbaar trade, but for as much as we've gone back and forth about him this year, I will say this. Again, if you've got other plans for your corner outfield, now, other than the fact that he's been injured, could be a reasonable enough time to explore his market, as long as you don't feel you're being dinged for how hurt he's been over the past few weeks, and teams are going to be realistic that they still have to pay up for a guy with good StatCast, good team control, all those things, name recognition, which may matter to a team like the Dodgers or whatever the case. What do you think about the notion of now being the time to move Lars Nootbaar rather than, let's say it's November? Let's say he comes back, he plays well in August, September, and then at least you've got a little bit more of Noot's still Noot. You can trade for him then. What do you think about the timing when it comes to Noot in particular?
Right now, I mean, at the trade deadline, the value isn't going to be any higher. The only way that it's going to be higher is if he goes and plays side by side in Japan with Shohei Ohtani in the World Baseball Classic and is a media darling again. And then you're looking at trading him before opening day in March next year. Like, that's the only way that his value is going to be any higher than it is right now. Because
you don't think he'll ever play well. Is that what you're saying? He's not going to play himself into better value?
I don't think so. I don't think he's going to. I don't think we're going to see anything. I mean, the struggles that we saw prior to the injury, I just don't see him going out there and having a great August, September to take off.
May I though? What if he was hurt and that's why he was struggling? Because the side makes it that intercostal and the rib cage that was going on for since mid-June. It feels like. Could that be a reason he was struggling? It's not the only reason, not making an excuse. But if we're talking about, like, rather than talking about narrative, it's like, oh, he stinks and that's why he stunk. What if there is a realm in which they could say, if he gets on the other side of this injury, it has a good August, September because he was better the previous 4 years than he was this year. Could they get more for him via trade in November? But I know where you stand. You're just not convinced that Noot's ever going to be that guy. And in fairness, when it comes to durability, he's not ever been that guy.
Yep. So that's and if you're toying with the idea that Ivan Herrera is going to be a corner outfielder, is going to be a left fielder for you, and you're going to start playing him more, then I guess are you shifting? Are you saying Victor Scott's going to lose at bats and Nootbaar's going to play more center now?
No.
Yeah, this is for a future show, I guess. When it comes to that. But if teams want Lars Nootbaar and the return back for that is going to be
fair,
is going to be good, go for it. Make all the trades, do everything with a guy like that, with an Alec Burrows. Brendan Donovan, I just feel there's just I need to see what that return is. I'm just that is not a conversation that I'm willing to entertain at the moment, and I don't think you are either.
No, I'm not. Again, I have the philosophy that Mo has of, listen, if we're getting calls about a guy, we're not going to hang up before they tell us what they're offering, right? That's just good business. That being said, I think you have to put Donovan in a very different category. Understanding that I've acknowledged that 2026 may not be their year, he's under control for 26. He's under control for 27. And he's still in that prime window of like 28 to 32 for a couple of years after that. I am very comfortable with like a 5-year extension with a carefully curated option that would take you beyond his age 33 season, and that happening in November. I'd be totally fine with that. I think, again, and this was a topic that we've talked about throughout the week, talked about it with Randy on Tuesday, this idea of a rebuild or a tank. If you trade Brenden Donovan, that feels like you're tanking. You're just like, anytime a guy gets close to free agency within 2 years and has value, we're going to churn him through because we're not ready to compete yet. And that's fine. I don't think the Cardinals are ready to compete for world championships yet. And I don't know that 26 is going to be that year. But I also don't think we should just overlook the value of building blocks. You don't have to go backwards to 100 losses to move forwards. Right. And there's not even a benefit anymore to doing it because the Cardinals just got the 5th pick when they were an 83-win team. So, like, the idea of tanking is not as effective as it used to be anyway, and it never was a guarantee to turn you around. And I just think if you're moving Donovan, you're behaving like an organization that is not, even by like 27 or 2028, not planning to really do much. Because I think Brenden Donovan's going to be Brenden Donovan for the next 5 years. And so that's where I am on that. Look, if you're getting a guy that joins your rotation today and a guy that, I don't know, a high-end prospect or something, like I said, Mo's going to listen to what is said to him on the cell phone. But I don't think that's realistic. I think teams are going to look at Donovan and say, oh, his OPS is only 770. He's kind of, what position does he even play? Like, they'll do what I try to do in fantasy football, and I'm trying to trade for a player, and they're like, why are you talking down the player that you're trying to trade for? I think he's worth more to the Cardinals right now than he's going to be to another team. If that unbelievable Godfather offer comes in, I'm not crazy. I do that for anyone. I do it for Mason Wynn. I do it for anybody if there's legitimately a value proposition where you came out ahead. I don't anticipate that, and I don't anticipate the Cardinals really strongly listening on that. But when it comes to Newt, not seeing anybody report that there's interest in Gorman, that's unfortunate because he'd be an interesting one that you could potentially move. But you also don't have to move him now if you can move Arenado, because Gorman could play third for the rest of the season, and then he either sinks and you go, all right, he's got no value, screw it. Trade him like you did Tyler O'Neill for, a bag of balls. Or he plays really well, and you have a decision on your hands of, okay, we're riding Gorman in 2026. We're really going to use him. We trust him. Or this is a flash in the pan. Now is the time to move him. So that's kind of as it circulates. Newt Bar, if you're getting fair value, absolutely. You've got a glut of corner outfielders. We see that. Gorman might be actually an opportunity if you trade Arenado instead to be able to plug Gorman in for a full 2 months and see what he's able to do to determine his trade value from there. Donovan, it would have to be such an unbelievable offer for me to even consider.
And to your point too, and to also kind of go back to the whole Newt Bar thing, and this is a revisit from the show yesterday when we were discussing the bevy of shortstops that the Cardinals have now. Jesus Baez, a shortstop in the Mets organization, in A-ball. You have JJ Weatherholt, who right now is a shortstop in the Cardinal system. You have a lot of shortstops. And we brought up last night the idea of a guy like, or a team like the Padres, where I think 7 of their 8 position players right now are former shortstops throughout their, minor league careers, college careers, what have you. That's, again, if this is, if we're building up like this and you look at guys like a Baez or Weatherholt, or you look at, Blaze Jordan right now, who is playing first and third in minor leagues, and Jordan Walker, who was drafted as a third baseman. If guys can hit, they're going to find positions for you on the field wherever they can. And I think that's becoming more and more apparent with some of the moves that the Cardinals are making. It's just, hey, you know what? These guys can hit. We're going to go find somewhere to put them.
And if you're a shortstop at any point, that implies that you have more of an option for the number of positions to which they could move you because you're just a better athlete. So don't worry about that. I've tried to reiterate that on just about every show. And I think you invoking the Padres lineup is a really good example. Like Jackson Merrill moves to the outfield, Tatis to the outfield, Cronenworth becomes more of a second/third. Arias, like you you've got a number of guys that if they ever played shortstop, that means they were athletic at some point. And so I like the idea of stocking those guys up. The bat for Baez is what you're looking for to develop. And he was a top 10 prospect in the Mets system, barely top 100, according to Baseball America coming into the year. So like, that's something. I think the disappointment there was you're trading your top pitching asset and you didn't get pitching as like the primary thing that you benefited from in return. They got 2 arms, but they weren't like the linchpins of the deal. So that's one aspect of it that I know people are upset about. Jacob here thinks, hey, you're not really going to see the best return for the position players right now. So stick to the reliever market. You'll get more value for a controlled asset like Romero. I honestly think, and this is for people who would have said trade Helsley in December, I think you get more value for relievers in July than you ever do in December, because of the fact that the teams that are aggressively pursuing those relievers know where they are. They know they're going to October. They know what they need to be able to get through October. And so they're a little bit more willing to do it. Whereas it's hard to trade and stock up a bullpen and pay assets to do it in December when you're like, I mean, we think we'll be in the playoffs, but if you're the Cardinals and you're trading for a reliever, or you're a team in the middle, like the Diamondbacks or even the Rangers, where it's like, yeah, we might, but maybe, that's hard to do in December. In July, you're like, oh, I can see the standings. We're the Brewers, we're the Cubs, we're the Phillies. We know we're in. We just need to stock up so we can win when we get there. I'm okay with that, and that's all the more reason to trade JoJo. And just one more comment from me here, Joe, before I let you tee off. Delusional if you think the current iteration is a major league roster. Injury-prone major league arms will compete soon. I have a bridge to sell you. Full rebuild, sell. I'll continue to reiterate. And look, what I said on Tuesday's Randy Carricker show wasn't that Cardinals fans can't stomach a rebuild. I know that's kind of what we had as the headline. What I said was I don't think Cardinals fans have the stomach for the rebuild that they think they have. Because if you're talking about losing 100 games, and like that's what full rebuild means. We don't have to like try to change the definition. That's what that would mean, 100 lost seasons and basically tanking to try to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. I just don't think that has to happen, but absolutely they should be trading the short-term assets that aren't going to be around long-term. And that's always a reliever like JoJo. That at this point, that feels like Nootbaar, because I don't think he's done enough durability-wise that you would extend him. There's just the one guy that I'm talking about that I seem to have a difference of agreement of opinion on with Cardinals fans. It's Donovan, because even if it's 3 years down the road, 4 years down the road, he's still on the team if you give him that contract extension. And if you're really a Cardinals fan that's cool with 4 years just being thrown down the toilet and losing 90-plus games, I don't think you have the stomach for that you think you do. I will reiterate what I said on Tuesday, because I 100% believe it. And it's only reinforced by you guys continuing to say full rebuild. I'm like, no, that's what I'm saying. You think that's what you want. We've never seen it in St. Louis. And I also don't think it's as beneficial to the cause as everybody is claiming it is. They don't want the Miles Michalises on the roster, the Eric Fedde on the roster. That's cool. Good news. You're not going to have them anymore. That's happening. It just didn't happen overnight. And so, again, it's fallout from October 2024 when nobody could get their pitchforks out and see that Mozeliak got fired. Like, it didn't happen immediately, and so we're still kind of seeing fallout, I think, in like fan angst, which is fair, but that's the reason, in my opinion, that we're seeing like people are pissed off about another year in the middle. Yeah, they're in the middle because they've won more games than they were supposed to. Like, if they were down below,
go talk to a White Sox fan from last year. Go talk to a Rockies fan. I mean, that's again. I mean, great. It all looks really great now. The Astros, how many consecutive ALCSs did they go to after a rebuild? Nobody remembers how terrible that was before that. And it's an entirely different, it's a different league now as far as the draft goes and as far as the valuation of everything. Yes, those days are over.
You can't lose 105 and get the number one pick. It's not a guarantee anymore.
And on top of that, you are seeing more, the Cardinals just had the 5th and 7th pick in the draft the last 2 years. Right. A rebuild, you just got 2 of the top 10 prospects, and college players are a hell of a lot more ready to go pro and play at the major league level today than they were a decade ago. So all of this nonsense of complete tear it down, rebuild, all of that, what we're seeing is an 85 lost team, a 90 lost team is a rebuild. Just because they don't hit that magic number of 100 doesn't mean that they're not trying to. It might be boring to you. You might not want to spend the money and go out to the games. That's fine.
And that's fine. Yes.
But
that's the
yeah,
thing I wanted
to sit
go ahead.
here and to put out guys, I mean, go look at the Memphis roster and pick 4 names out of that and put them in a Cardinal lineup. I mean, that's what a rebuild would look like at the Rockies or White Sox level. You're not, as people in the comments say, no, you can't stomach it. No, you're not ready for that. Nobody wants to sit through that.
And here's my thing, and I kind of went back and forth with folks on Twitter yesterday after STL Sports Central. We posted that clip of me talking about this topic, and I like this from Matt. Ownership would sell before tanking, and like I'm not one of those that thinks, well, Mike Shannon said they're going to sell. No, I don't think that was a real thing. But I agree with the comment. Like I don't think this ownership group. I think they understand the fact that that's not necessarily the sustainable way to approach it. But what's interesting is this idea that you're gonna have a full teardown and actually have something to gain from that when we're seeing over and over again that sometimes those things don't even work. Like even ask the Orioles of this year how it's working. They restocked with all those draft picks, and ultimately they're kind of still struggling to find pitching. And it's like, oh, do you have a bad season and then you have to do a whole new rebuild? Or can you kind of do things where slowly you're bleeding out of those bad contracts like the Michaelis deals? And what the new guy, Chaim Bloom, has to do is convince ownership we still got to spend a little. We got to replace that with some better spending. Like the problem wasn't that they spent on Michaelis. It's that they spent bad money because Michaelis didn't produce. The next ownership group should spend a little money. Maybe not $20 million on one player, but be targeted, be strategic. You add a few guys in a lower tier, but it's not Mo doing it anymore. So that's a reason to believe that maybe it works out a little bit differently. I think that's still a worthwhile pursuit. I don't want to just say, hey, rebuild, retool, tank it, and ownership would be like, cool. If fans say that they're good with this, that's all the more reason for us to do it because we don't have to spend as much money during those years. But I just don't necessarily think it's going to play out the way that people believe that it would. I understand what people are saying. They're tired of being in the middle. I think there's a way to get out of the middle without having to lose 100 games first. And it's just having good people running the organization. And I think Mo, we've seen some of this passing by a bit. And that's why Chaim has brought in a full new group and even ownership who has a great relationship with Mo had to realize, hey, this is potentially something we need to do to kind of get back to where we were ahead of the curve in a lot of the areas of this game behind the scenes.
There are only 3 games on the MLB schedule today. This afternoon, the Rays are at the Yankees. And then tonight, Braves, Reds, and then Rangers, Mariners. So those are your 3 games in Major League Baseball today. Everybody else is off. So plenty of time for wheeling and dealing. Just to update you on everything that has gone on, I'm going to go to the most recent all the way to, if you're just waking up right now, if you're just jumping on social media, if you're just jumping on YouTube to see what is going on. The most recent deal that happened, the Cubs acquired former Cardinal Andrew Kittredge from the Orioles. Hey. So they added another arm to the bullpen. Cubs also last night traded for Michael Soroka from the Nationals. That's been the long, kind of the revolving door of 5th starters for the Cubs this year. He probably fits into that for them now down the stretch run. We've already talked about Red Sox getting Steven Matz from the Cardinals. Eugenio Suarez goes back to the Mariners. So the hand injury the other day, and he always seemed to be the most coveted trade piece. I haven't seen what the return was for that or the value of those players, but Suarez goes to the Mariners last night for that. Also, as I kind of look through here at some of the other ones that have happened, Astros get Ramon Urias from the was he Nationals? Baltimore. Okay.
Baltimore.
Okay. From Baltimore.
Baseman, like, if Arenado's going to happen, it seems like we know the teams that are left that could use one, right? A lot of those third basemen have moved, and so now it kind of comes to, is someone still interested, and is Arenado going to accept reality of where he is in his career? That's the other part of this. It's like you don't have the leverage necessarily that you maybe had before.
And that kind of takes yesterday, you sure there, I guess late last night, John Denton came out with a story right now that's on Cardinals.com, that's on MLB.com in regards to Nolan Arenado. And there it is on the heels of former teammate and close friend Ryan Helsley being dealt to the Mets. Cardinals third baseman Nolan Arenado wondered on Wednesday night if a deal might be worked out that could get him to a World Series contender. So it does appear that Nolan Arenado has seen, is very aware of the writing on the wall. And as you brought up earlier in the show, Nolan Gorman close to being coming back. He hit a homer and a double last night in AAA. I believe that's what he did last night in AAA. I think I saw that. But yeah, it's kind of opens up a few doors for Nolan Arenado to go somewhere.
Yeah, with Suarez having been dealt, like it should be more clear now to the Cardinals if they're working on this, who they could be talking with. And again, I think if there's a World Series contender that is asking about Arenado, the Cardinals are going to say, just pay some of the money and we can do this. Like, I don't think they're going to really hold, their feet to the fire on a return. And it's going to have to be Arenado. Hey, here's the deal. It's going to be kind of take it or leave it. I don't think he's miserable in St. Louis, but I think he's miserable performing the way that he is. And if you add into the fact that the team is moving in the wrong direction for contention for the next 2 months, I would be surprised if any team that's in a playoff spot, legit, would come knocking on the door about him that he would say, I don't accept. I think he would go just about anywhere at this point, if I had to guess.
Hey, we have two little news things. The first one, not as exciting, but the Rangers are pursuing Phil Maton and also Hunter Harvey of the Royals. So the Rangers looking now for relief pitching. And we do have a trade that is close to happening. The Toronto Blue Jays are close to acquiring Shane Bieber of the Cleveland Guardians. So that's waking up, and that's a trade that looks like it is close to happening per John Morosi.
Yeah, and that Bieber deal, I think he's got a player option coming up that, was kind of maybe muddying the waters on what his trade value could be, because you always want to know, like, all right, is a guy going to accept the player option for the following year? The $16 million for next year, but it's a player option with a $4 million buyout. He's pitching pretty well. No, wait a minute. He's just kind of getting back this year. No, he hasn't pitched. So that's interesting. He has not pitched at all this season. I don't know how close he is to returning. And so that could kind of make things interesting. Obviously, you're wanting to have somebody down the stretch if you're bothering to trade for him now. But the player option is kind of one of those that's difficult to ascertain, because if he comes back and shoves, he might say, now's my chance to get a longer contract. If he comes back and struggles, you'll be like, yeah, $16 million for next year sounds pretty good. So that'll be kind of interesting. But obviously a starter with some track record, but who has been injured.
So that's the latest in the trades, and you just kind of keep hitting refresh now on Twitter. It seems like the execs are starting to move, starting to wake up and move a little bit.
Yeah, we got one more big piece of news. I didn't expect this piece of news to happen today. I don't even know what the context of this was, but Aaron says, Brendan, I owe you an apology. I'll call that a win for the day. I'll call that a win for the day. I don't even know what I said, but I'll just consider that to be a W for the day. That's not anything that matters to like the Cardinals and their chances to win, but I am going to take that. I'm going to take that and run with it.
Here is what the day looks like on STL Sports Central. And for those of you that are watching on Twitter, go to the YouTube page, go over there now, type in STL Sports Central. Heck, if you go to YouTube right now, we are probably right there in the featured live show, right there on your on the thumbnail, sitting right there, ready for you to click. Like and subscribe if you haven't done so, to make sure you are ready to get those notifications when we go live with any news that happens throughout the day regarding the Cardinals. Randy Carricker will be on the air at 10 a.m. with Matthew Rocchio. They'll go from about 10 to 11:30 or so. Bernie's show usually goes around noon, so be ready for that. And then we'll be back at it with all kinds of instant reaction when things happen all afternoon leading up to our trade deadline show this afternoon at about 4:30, 4:45. Whenever all of the moves start happening, we'll have a camera ready, and we'll be ready to hit go live on our end. Hoping you are ready to watch us on your end with a lot of our baseball people ready to go on this Cardinal off day. So lots of moves still to be made in Major League Baseball, and it looks like the Cardinals are going to be right there in the middle of all of it, if you believe the reports that we're reading.
And we'll see where the Cardinals end up and how many more guys they end up trading and what that signals about the upcoming offseason and then the 2026 season and beyond. And in future shows, I'll definitely have more to say about this concept of like, do you rebuild? Do you kind of roll through? What's the process? I had a really good thought. I promise I did. And then it absolutely left my head and I have not been able to re-find it. So someday you guys will get to hear even more commentary on that from me. And it was I was trying to get to it. And I was like, I meandered and I didn't find it. So apologies for that. But, the next day or so is going to show us more about where the Cardinals are going to be for 2026. How many guys with control do they trade? Because Maton's going to go today. The Hunter Harvey thing is interesting because the Royals, I think, would like to move him. And so are you kind of almost competing to see who can go lower and accept less for their guy? That might not mean a big return if Maton goes there to the Rangers. But then beyond him, it's really guys that do have some team control attached. And so if the Cardinals stay busy beyond Maton, that would be interesting in terms of the way their roster gets reshaped heading into the offseason.
Cal Stevens from Danville, Illinois, is who is going from the Blue Jays to the Guardians in that move. So
okay, I mean there you go.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is, but
I saw Illinois next to him. I saw Danville, Illinois. I figured we probably had some viewers from that area, so figured I would at least mention it. Looked like he played his college ball at Purdue and Mississippi State. So just little things like that. I saw somebody had posted earlier today that in the comments that Blaze Jordan is from South Haven, Mississippi, so he's going to be playing basically back home in Memphis now at AAA. Okay. So that'll help ticket sales for the Redbirds. Maybe not sure what he's going to do up here in St. Louis.
Yeah, I know there is a guy. One of the guys that came over in the I think it was the Helsley trade went to the same college as Miles Michaelis. So we're just going to keep bringing you all these random connections that are very, very important and integral to what we're doing here.
We'll keep you up to speed on everything. And as always, follow all of the socials because that's where you're going to get a lot of the information too, as it pops up during the day, all the rumors, all the reports. We will share that news with you everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever it might be. So just hey, like us, subscribe to us everywhere possible for today. It's going to be a busy day here on STL Sports Central. That's going to do it for the early morning MLB Deadline preview. We appreciate all of you getting up with us and watching this morning. He is Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Joe Roderick. This is STL Sports Central. And all content is brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours.